Oh, you have a second innings anyway. Well, if you fail in the first innings, you have the second innings. Now, in the one-day match, you are in a hurry, a desperate hurry. So the one-birth theory people, certain Semitic religions believe in only one birth. They're desperate, they have to do everything just now because they have no time. So we in India, Bahunam Janmanamante, Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. So don't worry, we have plenty of lives more to go. So we are not at all afraid, we are not at all concerned. We can come again and again and go on. The advantage is, the failure doesn't disappoint you. And you are not competitive. You can look at it very psychologically and philosophically, it is so profound. No Indian mind can be unduly jealous. Hey, your neighbor is prospering and why is it that you are not doing it? Previous karma, previous life, you must have done something to deserve it. So you have an explanation for it, push it to the previous life. Even Sri Ramakrishna said, suddenly somebody got realization. He didn't do anything apparently. He gives the example of Shavasana and that Shavasadhana. Shavasadhana is you sit on a corpse and then meditate for a long time and then you realize God. So a person was preparing everything with the Shavasadhana. Suddenly a tiger attacked and then killed him. And one fellow, because the figure of tiger is sitting in the tree, he jumped down and sat on the Shava, immediately got the vision of the Divine Mother. He said, he was so pleased, he told the mother, Mother, I have a small question to ask you. That fellow did so much, all the arrangements, but he couldn't get it. But he got your vision by just doing nothing. Then I said, that's it. In the previous life you have done so much. So the advantage is, whenever you are in trouble, you say, I did something in my previous life to be able to deserve this. When your neighbor prospers and you don't prosper, you must have done something in the previous life. So jealousy goes away and you have infinite patience. And then you say, anyway, this life doesn't happen. But the downside is, we become absolutely lazy. This life, leave it, next life we'll manage. So you have to balance these theories. Remember, all the religions, even science, don't swear by any scientific theory, because that theory is only a particular model by which you look at reality and nature. As somebody said, the corridor of science is littered by the skeletons of discarded theories. We go on. What is this? This is Newton's theory, now skeleton now. After some time, Einstein's theory may be a skeleton, but you go on and on. The human mind is continually exploring into reality and coming out with various models and theories by which to look at truth. And therefore, don't swear by any theory as the only theory. If that theory satisfies you, good enough. Swami Vivekananda has been accused of being inconsistent. One day in a speech he gave out a theory. A young man came excited. Swamiji, that theory satisfies me so much. I like it. Excellent. It's an excellent theory. Swamiji said, yes, then it's for you. The next day somebody says, Swamiji, I can't accept it. I don't agree at all. No, then it's not for you. So it's just like having food. You go to a hotel, the menu card is there. You tick out what you want. So you do in a supermarket of religions and a mall, you go there. You want to purchase on the second floor, you don't purchase it and set fire to the other. Why do you do that? Why are you so fanatical? Somebody else can do it. So the infinite mansion of God, 100 things, 1,000 things are available. Let anybody have a pick. If he is satisfied by that and is happy, let people go on. Don't spoil others' happiness by saying, this is not the exact theory by which you should be satisfied. It is satisfying to him. I see the stone there and then go to Shivalinga and worship it. I feel so satisfied, I feel elevated, I feel happy. Then why do you come and tell me that is not Shiva? You should not do that. It satisfies me. If you can't accept Shiva, you go somewhere else. But why do you disturb me? God has no problem. The whole problem is, if I say I am a stupid fellow, I will worship you in this stone, God says, all right, I will manifest in that stone and then satisfy you. But human beings have a problem. Your neighbor comes and says, no, he is not there in that stone. But God says, I am here for this fellow. So God has no problem because He can manifest anywhere and everywhere and satisfy the aspirations of every one of His children for whom He is infinitely compassionate.
Maharaj, I could add a footnote. I just want to add a footnote. I suggest you read Swamiji's essay on reincarnation. It's a brilliant essay where he tries to explain what it means, and he does it in a very rational way. Swamiji has written an essay on this. Swami Vivekananda has, called Reincarnation.
I spoke as a keynote speaker, this way reincarnation, as a concluding speaker of this session. Apart from thanking the two speakers who made such wonderful speeches that excited the audience, all of you will go enriched. One thing about Swami Vivekananda which is very remarkable is that you can't be indifferent to that man. You have to say something for or against him. You criticize him, write books against him, or you eulogize him, or you worship him, but you can't just say, I ignore you. You can't ignore him. A person who just can't be ignored is amazing in his size. About that, in his reminiscence, the amazing size of Swami Vivekananda, Miss Josephine MacLeod wrote. Josephine MacLeod is an American disciple of Swami Vivekananda who chose to call herself not a disciple but a friend of Vivekananda. He said, the unlimitedness in Swami Vivekananda was extraordinary characteristics. There is no limits to Vivekananda. That's because he was so open to every idea and his mind was so vast and deep, everybody and every idea could be accommodated within this. And therefore, when you have such extraordinary personalities who are complex, who are extraordinary, who are mysterious, and who can combine within them all possible so-called contradictions, at the same time the contradictions get resolved in them. Swami Tapasyananda once defined God in a beautiful way. God is that supreme being in whom all contradictions meet and lose their contradictoriness. Nature has no contradiction. Nature has no problem at all. All contradictions exist in the human mind. We say this is contradictory to that. This is the simplest example I always think about, the teeth and the tongue. The tongue and the teeth are just contradictory natures. But they coexist so beautifully inside the mouth. When I am speaking to you, the chances of my tongue being bitten by the teeth is very large. But the teeth tells the tongue, let us cooperate and live well, and so that the speech can be properly delivered and listened to. In the entire human body, every little thing apparently, if you take it in isolation, becomes contradictory to something else. But if you take it as one whole, it's so beautiful. So what a scientist or a religious person does is to look at nature, baffled, wonder-struck, and from that wonder, he tries to find out a small opening and some understanding dawns upon him. Then you call it physics, you call it chemistry, you call it something else. A poet can't describe it and then music flows from his heart and then he tries to describe it in so many ways. And therefore the Upanishadic rishis, Vivekananda said, always spoke in paradoxes. Every sentence contradicts every other sentence, apparently. And this language of paradox baffles the rational, logical mind, and in the baffling of the logical and rational mind, there is a catapulting of the mind to a different realm in which all logicality ceases and gives way to a unified, complete, satisfying vision. And in that vision, human being gets his fulfillment. And people like Vivekananda, who in that vastness can combine so many things, like the ocean, for example, are understood very late in human society and civilization. Swami Tapasyananda once said, there are two types of extraordinary people. One type, during their lifetime, their image is so large. And when you walk along the corridor of time, their image becomes smaller and smaller and smaller till they are sucked by time and they get lost in time. Another type of people who appear very small during their lifetime, even 100 years, 150 years, 200 years is nothing. 150 years after Vivekananda's birth, what is 150 years compared to the age of the earth? Compared to infinity? the antiquity of the human soul. So such people appear to be very small, but when they walk along the corridor of time, they become larger and larger and larger till they simply gobble up time itself and pass into immortality and timelessness. So thank you. Thanks everybody. Let us go back home thinking about the vastness and complexity of Vivekananda, who is so simple, because we make very simple things extremely complicated. That is what is called a seminar. You take a simple thing, go on discussing it. You know the contradiction that literature person and a science person are present here. I was remembering an interesting incident as a joke. Paul Dirac was a great physicist. He never used to like literature. Oppenheimer was also a very big physicist, but he used to like literature. He used to like the Bhagavad Gita also. Many poems he used to read. Dirac used to taunt him. Hey, why are you reading this poetry? You know what do these people do in poetry and literature? They take something which is very well known, like the sun and the moon and the stars, and describe it in such a way that nobody understands. In science, we take up something which is not known, unknown, and explain it in such a way that everybody understands. This is a joke. So what I'm trying to say is, human mind tries to understand this complex phenomenon 100,000 different ways. So we go on, the idea is, they go on thinking about these persons. The more and more we contemplate them positively, negatively, in so many ways, it is just like rejoicing. And children, you give a child any chocolate, it will not simply eat it so easily. It wants to keep it in its mouth as long as possible. It will push it here, push it there, and chew it, and bite it, and rejoice. So when you love somebody, when you're extraordinarily fascinated by a personality, it's a great joy, contemplating, thinking, meditating, discussing. That's what we will do for the whole of the next day. Thank you. Thank you so much.
With this, we come to the end of the session. I request all of you to collect the packet of eatables that is being distributed at the gate. Thank you.
Very good.